We are learning now. Good morning, everyone. We are continuing in our quest for knowledge and universal peace and education to what is really good and what is good for man and what is good for the world and what will promote harmony and blessing for all mankind. And that is to do what the Creator wants you to do. And that's the answer to the world's problems. That's the answer to the world's problems. But as it is now, we do have problems. It says the Rebbe, now, what is one of the big sources of our problems? What's the big sources of our problems? That we think we know what's going on. We think that what is high is really high. People who are popular, people who are leaders, who are great, who are at the top, who are the rich, they're famous, they're successful, that means that they are somehow or other closer to reality or to truth or to, to achievement or to being human than anybody else, right? That's what we think. So as a result, you can get, bizarre situations that, whoever thinks they're strongest or whoever is the strongest is right. As they say, the golden rule. What's the golden rule? Whoever has the gold rules. Right? That's what seems the way the world is now. And even regarding good, right? A person who is, a holier person and he knows how to bless everybody and everybody. So you might think that somehow or other he's better and he's higher and he's closer to reality. His life is like worthwhile and everybody else's life is not. But that is not so. It is good to be rich, 100%. Well, I'm not promoting communism over here. It's a good thing to be rich, and it's a good thing to be famous, and it's a good thing to be powerful, and it's a good thing to be a leader. And some people are designed to be leaders, and some people are designed to be rich, and some people are designed to be famous, and some people are, but don't think that means that in any way that makes you closer to God or to reality or to truth. It's just like the difference between some people are left-handed and some people are right-handed. Some people have, the 20/20 vision and some people don't. It doesn't make you better. It's just gifts that are given to you by God, and you have your obligation to use the gift. So what really is the purpose? The purpose is humility. Humility. To be rich, to be famous, to be all these things, to be great, to be a great rabbi, a great Talmudic scholar, to be a holy Jew, to do all the commandments, to be, the upper echelon of, the Jewish world, the Jewish religious world, get to the highest levels of heaven, wherever it is. But don't think that means that somehow or other you're better than everybody else. If not, then what is it? It means you got a gift from God. You got a gift from God. What is really the point? The point is humility, to do your utmost with what you've got. Right? Do your utmost with what you've got. It could be a poor person, the last moments of his life, his attitude has achieved more than the richest person that he gave charity to everybody and he saved the whole world. Who knows? Because he's doing his utmost and he's doing his utmost to serve the Creator. Doing your utmost simply stems from humility, not thinking about what I deserve, but what I have to do. And that's going to be the difference between Yosef, generally, and Yosef and Yehuda. Yosef is achievement, greatness, growing. There's an upper level and a lower level. And that is represented by the tabernacle. And Yehuda, am I recording this? I hope I am. Yeah. And Yehuda, he represents humility, simple humility, making the best of what you have to serve the Creator, to do what the Creator wants. What about rewards and punishments? I'm not talking about that at all. I mean, it goes without saying that if a person, goes against what it says in the Torah, he's not going to get any rewards, right? That's what it is. But who knows how? We don't know. The Rambam, Maimonides, says we don't know how to measure. It could be that a person did one good deed and that outweighs all of his bad deeds that he've ever done in his life. And it could be that another person does one bad deed and that outweighs all of the good deeds that he did in his life. So what are we supposed to do? Just do as much good as you can. Just try your best. To forget about what the future, what's going to be in heaven or your rewards. Humility, that's the point. Right now, be yourself right now. See what it says in the Torah, what the Torah demands from you, and do that right now. Right? Be humble, be helpful, be happy, be successful, be how do you say, practical, right? Be a good businessman, an honest businessman. Use the world for what it's supposed to be. Ideally, everybody's supposed to be rich. Ideally. Okay. So that's the difference between Yehuda and Yosef. And that's the difference between the tabernacle, which accompanied the Jews from the time they left Egypt until the first temple was built, which is like 480 years. And the first and second and third temple, the third temple Moshiach is going to build, the third temples, what's the difference between, because the tabernacle was made in an order of above and below. The bottom was mineral, the walls were a higher level plant, on top of that was animal skins. It went from below to above. So there was a hierarchy. But the holy temple, the whole thing was made from dirt, stone, the concrete, the whole entire building, whole entire thing. First temple, second temple, third temple will be all of them. Why? Says that's the difference between Yehuda and Yosef. That's in our Torah portion. It says Yosef is the leader. He's the boss. He's the greatest. There's nothing like him. He's got also these amazing powers. He can tell dreams, and he's an amazing, how do you say, organizer. And he rules over all of Egypt and is aware of every little detail that happens. Nobody can lift up their hand or foot without him. And Yosef, and that's the idea of greatness. Yosef means to add on, and Yehuda, that's like the tabernacle, and Yehuda, that is humility, hodaya, thanks, gratitude, gratitude. Learning from everybody, but being yourself. That's Yehuda. Yehuda, that's like the earth. That's earth, the eretz. That's Malchut of Atzilut. Remember, we learned that in Kabbalistic terms. Therefore, Yehuda is Hoda'ah. Hoda'ah means gratitude, thanks, surrender. Batel, ubatel, and is, how do you say, totally surrendered, harmonious, giving over. In Hebrew, it's called hatama. You do exactly what is required of you in every situation, what the Torah says, what the situation demands. That's bittul shadomem. That's the idea of mineral, simple reality. Yeshbo bechinas bittul biyoter. It has the aspect of what's called surrender. Behine, behold, say now according to the way the world goes now. One second. In the order of reality now. Yosef Yosef is above Yehuda. Yosef is above Yehuda. Yosef is like, let's say, holy Jews, right? The Jews, holy Jews that know the whole Torah, they know all the Kabbalah, they're close to God, they're thinking about God. They are much higher than Yehuda. Yehuda is simple Jews, even simple people. Shahariya Malchut, because Malchut Makabel, because Malchut, the lowest level, it receives from the upper worlds, from Zeranpin, we said before. In other words, the physical world, which is represented by Malchut, receives from the spiritual worlds, which is Zeranpin, God's emotions. Look, and therefore Yosef, Haya Melech, therefore Yosef was the king of Egypt. All right, it's bigger over here. Oh. 1 minute. Therefore, Yosef was the king of Egypt. Yosef was the king in Egypt. Shahu, Bechinas Tzomeach. Yosef is like, we say, compared, is the comparison between plant, vegetable life, and mineral. Minerals don't do anything. They're just ground, nothing. And Yosef, he's like a cedar tree. He grows up. Bechinas Gidul, growing up. Not Nasut, and elevation. Yosef was the mashbir, the mashpia lekulam. Yosef gave food to everyone. Yehuda, he was the receiver. In our our Torah portion begins that Yehuda is groveling. He has nothing. He's totally dependent. Hasn't even got any food. He's totally dependent on Yosef. Yosef has everything. Yosef is the biggest, and Yehuda is the smallest. That's the way things are now in the time of exile. That's what it says. V'yigash alav Yehuda. That Yehuda he has to approach Yosef. Yehuda is Yigash approaching Yosef was Yehuda. But Yomer, it says, "Be Adoni, please, perish shabo yimshach a shefa that should be drawn into me this blessing from Yosef, a tzaddik." So Yehuda, who is simplicity, that has nothing, poverty, he depends on Yosef, who is greatness and achievement and richness. Yosef is the highest. Come over like it explains in the Zohar in Parshas Vayigash. I know Hitkarvos Alma the Alma. It says one world comes close to the other. Alma, the world Zer Anpin, the heavenly spiritual worlds represented by Yosef. The Kabel, Yosef, Yehuda came close to Yosef, the Kabel Shefa, to receive the blessing. But then while you did, like it was when the Mishkan. This was like the Mishkan, the tabernacle at Someach Lamaila, vegetable. The plant was above mineral. But in the future, Yehuda. In the future, Yehuda is going to be higher. He's going to be much, much greater than Yosef. A woman of valor, the woman that's the receiver, Mother Earth, will be the crown over her husband. That's the heavens. The earth will be higher than the heavens because of its source. Because the world, physical world, rose up in God's thought first. And that was the first thing that God wanted when he created the world, was the physical world. So this physical world is actually the highest of all. It just has to manifest it. It's high, it's hidden. Machshava is what we said, choshev ma. We did this actually yesterday. Machshava means the thought of ma. Ma is the numerical value of 45. It's one of the names of God, which indicates surrender to God. Chachma, the highest level of godliness, but it also is revealed only in the lowest level. Ma. Hainu taklis a bittul, total surrender, total, how do you say, harmony with what's with reality, with your obligation, your responsibility. That's what's called chachma v'tzilut, koachma. So in simplicity is revealed the highest. Abba Yasab Brata, that's what it says, that Abba, which is chachma, is the foundation of Brata, the daughter. That's what's called malchut. The four letters of God's name, there's Yud, that represents God's what's called chachma, his life force. And the lowest is the last Hey, that's called, the first is called father. And the last Hey is called daughter. Because this upper wisdom of God, this upper wisdom of God is revealed in Chachma Tatoa, the lower aspect, which this is Malchut, the lower fear of God. That's what it means. Abba Yasad Brata, that the father, which is Chachma, that's the upper called upper fear, total negation, if you want to call it, to God, total surrender to God. This is the foundation. This is the source of what's called the lower fear of God. We did this yesterday. And the Atzid Lava in the future, the lower fear of God. Lower fear of God means that I feel myself, but I know that I'm wrong. I feel myself, and I'm certain that I really exist and that I am the boss, and I know that this is not right. I know it's not right. That's called the lower fear of God. I know that God is bigger than me, that God is stronger than me. I know that God is creating me, but I don't feel it. right? Intellectually, I know, but I don't feel. What do? I check myself. That's called the lower fear of God. God is bigger than me. He's stronger than me. But the first person still feels himself. That's the lower fear of God. The upper fear of God is he feels the truth. He feels the truth. He knows what. It's almost like, let's say, a musician, right? A person goes to a concert, and this person himself, he plays violin or piano, and he listens to the concert. He goes back home and says, "Listen, I know how to play the piano. I know how to play the violin, but I know that what I'm playing is not. That's not it. I can't be a concert pianist. I can't pretend that I'm a concert pianist." Right? That's like the lower fear. He has a certain ability, feel a certain sense of what God is. Like this person has a sense of music, but he knows that that's not it. He's not embodying it. That's the lower fear. That we're sure that there's God, we believe in God, but we know we don't really have it. Therefore, I have to check myself all the time. Am I doing right? Am I doing according to the Shulchan Aruch? Is this the proper feeling? Should I making the proper decisions? The upper fear is not that. The upper fear is he feels godliness all the time. That's all he's interested in. That's all he feels. He doesn't have any egotism. That's the upper fear. That's called the tzaddik. And that's the upper fear. In the future, this whole world will be filled with this upper fear. Everyone will feel that they're being created. What comes from this upper fear, by the way? Happiness. Happiness. You feel true. You're grateful to the creator of the universe. Every single instant you feel, wow, God is creating me. In God's eyes, I'm tremendously important. In my eyes, I'm a nothing, but in God's eyes, I'm important. He's creating me every instant. Right? How happy I am to do what he wants. That's what it means in the future. The bittul will be this idea of surrendering to God will be higher in level than all this love and fear and levels that a person can reach. Look, and therefore, even now, yesh ba'oretz, therefore, even in this physical world, we can see that there is the physical earth. We can see it has what's bittul yoter. It has more surrender. From the earth grows everything because it has the power of growth because it doesn't do anything on its own. It just receives. That's bittul of year. That's what's called the in this lowest world, lowest places is reflected what's called the upper fear, which is life, pure life. This is Bechinas Madrigas. This is the level of Moses. Nachnuma. Okay, that's what it says in the Haftorah. We did that yesterday. That's what it says in this week's Haftorah, where we have a Haftorah over there from Ezekiel, Yechezkel. And the prophecy says that God says, take two sticks and put them together. One of them is the stick of Yosef, and the other one is of Ephraim, and the other one is the stick of Yehuda. And it's referring to after King Solomon passed away, so the kingship which was a couple hundred years before Ezekiel lived, but the kingdom of Israel was divided. There was the 10 tribes, and now the 10 tribes had already been taken away in the time of Yechezkel. They had already been taken away. Excuse me. God is saying in the future they're going to be united again. And Yehuda, and in the past, there were 10 tribes that were Ephraim, and only 2 tribes were Yehuda. In the future, and so Ephraim was in some ways higher. Even though they worshipped idols, they did all sorts of terrible things, but nevertheless, they were higher. In the future, it says that Yehuda, you take 2 sticks, it said take 2 sticks, and one of the sticks right on it Ephraim, one of the sticks right on it Yehuda, put them together, and in the future, Yehuda is going to be higher. It says Yehuda is going to be the Mashiach. That's what it says. Ad until Avdi David, my servant David, Melech Aleim, he's going to be the king over them. Perish. Now Yosef is above Yehuda. Now Yosef is higher than Yehuda. Yosef is like the big high cedar tree. Asher that Gadol, that it grew, that it grows, the Gova very high, the Mitvosef, Beholach, and continues. Kach Yosef, also Yosef. Allah Sheikhas Shvatim. Yosef had the 10 tribes, like it said over there, Shivte Yisrael, Chaverav, and they are all his compatriots. Nimsahu Maruba. So it comes out that Yosef, which came from Yerovam ben Nevat. We're going to get to Yerovam ben Nevat soon. He started all this idolatry. It says that Yosef, Ephraim, had 10 tribes. There were more than Yehuda. Yehuda only had 2. Sha'al Shem Zeh. That's why Yosef, that's why it's called Yosef. Yosef means to add on. Hu Adat Elyon. Yosef was the upper awareness of God. That's the way it is from the time that the temple was destroyed until now, right? There was a hierarchy. Whoever knew more, whoever was greater, whoever was more successful, he's considered to be greater. But in the future, when they're both joined together, Yosef and Yehuda together, but Tachlis Yichud, totally unified, and Miti, a true unification, like it says, Vayigash of Yehuda, like in this week's Torah portion, that Yehuda, he's coming close to Yosef. Yehuda is the lowest now, but he's going to come close to Yosef. It says, Echad be'echad Yigashu, so they'll become unified. And this is going to be in the future. As then, Yitaleh Yehuda will be elevated, Lamaila, higher than Yosef. Like it said, Eshet Chayil, like we said, the woman of valor, Mother Earth, Ateret Bala will be higher than the heavens. The lowest will be revealed to be the highest. Why is it going to be the highest? Why? Because of its source. In other words, what is greater, to be rich and famous and to be, Paul Shalom, to be rich and famous and successful and intelligent and great and a ruler and this, or just to be? Just being. So now we don't appreciate just being. Being is nothing. I mean, you have to have some achievements or something. That's, yeah, but you don't understand, because being is a gift from God. And also all these other things of intelligence and success, that also are gifts from God. So if we could just appreciate what God is, then we realize that just the fact that we are is the basis of everything. It's good to be, not that everybody should just give up all their belongings and go and live in the forest. There are people that are good. It's good to be wise. Science is good. Richness is good. Capitalism is good. All these things are good. But you have to connect it to its source. And therefore, as then, David Melech, I'll call Israel. Then my servant King David will be the king over everyone. People will appreciate God. They'll appreciate the Creator. They'll appreciate God is bringing everything from nothing. That's what it says. That's what it means, that Yosef was not able to hold himself back. When Yosef confessed to his brothers, what did he confess? He said, "Who do you think I am?" And they said, "Your Majesty, you are the king of the world. You're the king of Egypt. Please have mercy on us." And Yosef said, "Fellows, I'm your brother. Remember, you sold me into slavery, right? Years ago, 13 years ago. Well, here I am. I'm the king." Yosef joined together with Yehuda. I'm one of your brothers. The unification is to be one in one. Now, and in all of this, Yuvan, we can understand what it says in Likutei Shas of the Arizal. There are books which are written in the name of the Arizal, is written by his pupils, really, of the Rav Chaim Vital. And there's what's called the Shemona Shari, in the book of incarnations, in the book of intentions, in the book of the commandments. Shar, the gate, it says gate Ruach HaKodesh. And then there's other books that are written by him, and one of them is called Likutei Shas. Likutei Shas means take sentences from the Talmud and he explains them. And it says over there, the Biur Maimar Razal, what it says in Achilik, there's a weird, bizarre story in the Gemara in Sanhedrin. In the Gemara in Sanhedrin, it talks over there the story about Yerovam ben Nevat. Now, Yerovam ben Nevat, we told it before, it's a gruesome story. It's a terrible story, very shameful story in Israel. But unfortunately, Yosef has made a lot of shameful stories. I mean, I'm sorry, not Yosef. The brothers selling Yosef, right? But here we have from so to speak, from Yosef himself. There was a very great man in Israel, and his name was Yerovam ben Nevat. He lived in the time of King Solomon. At the end of King David's life, and King Solomon, in the time of King Solomon, right? So it was in the time of King David, also King Solomon. Anyway, he was a genius. There was nobody in Israel that could come to anywhere near his knowledge and his purity and his wisdom in the Torah. And he was chosen by a prophet to take 10 tribes and divide the kingdom of Israel. Ashiloni was the prophet, and he was chosen to take 10 tribes and divide Israel because the Jewish people were tremendously dissatisfied with King Solomon's son, who was called Rehoboam. So the prophet came along and said, you're justified in being dissatisfied, divide the country. So it says that Yeroboam ben Nevat, and what did Yeroboam ben Nevat? As soon as he went up, made the 10 tribes, he went mad. He went wild. And his egotism forced him to become just an egomaniac. And he got afraid that people are going to go down to Jerusalem, to the Holy Temple. The Holy Temple wasn't in the area of the 10 tribes. His kingdom was called Israel, and the lower was called Yehuda, and the Holy Temple was in Yehuda. That was in the area of those two tribes, Yehuda and Benjamin. He was afraid that people were going to go down, and then he thought he already rounded it in his mind that they were going to go down, and maybe they would kill him. So he said, okay, listen, people, I'm your king. I know what I'm doing, right? You trust me? Everybody said, yeah. We're going to not go down to the Holy Temple anymore. Everybody said, what? So listen, have patience. I was chosen. No one goes down to the Holy Temple anymore. I'm going to make 2 golden calves. And now you worship the golden calves. Everybody said, golden calves? I mean, is that permissible? He said, yes, it is permissible. And somehow or other, he got all the rabbis in his domain to agree with him. And he put guards on the border so that people couldn't go down to Jerusalem. And that's basically how it remained for 200 years, something like that, 250 years. It remained a long time that way. Okay, so that was pretty bad. And he made, idolatry, and he did a lot of other things as well, which are not, here's not the place to mention, but he did bad things. God comes to Yeroboam ben Nevat after he's done all these terrible sins, and he says, Chozer b'cha, return to me. Stop this idolatry stuff. Stop encouraging the people to sin. You look what you've done. You're making all the Jewish people sin. Right? But it's not too late. God said it's not too late. I'm willing to forget all of those sins. I'll find excuses for everything. Just don't do it anymore. Stop. Right? Stop. Return back to me. You know what right is. He knew the whole Torah. He knew everything, more than anybody else. Come back to me. He said, and if you, okay, he says, what am I going to get? He said, you and me and you and King David will be together in heaven. God said to him, me and you and King David, he put Rehoboam first. Me and you and King David will be up in heaven. He said, me, Barosh, who's going to be first, me or King David? He said, Ben Yishai. King David is going to be the first. He never did any sins. He's holy. He said, I don't want. Said, I'm not going to be, I would rather be number 1 in hell than to be number 2 in heaven. I got to be number 1. That's what Yeroboam said. I have to be number 1. God said, I'll forgive all your sins. You know what hell is. You know all the secrets of the Torah, knew everything. So it doesn't make any difference. 1 minute of being number 2, I can't take it. Not in this world, not in the next world. Now, that's what we said before, that God wanted that Yeroboam ben Nevat would return to Tshuva, that we'd return to him. But as Ya'irbo, then he would get this level of Yosef. Like it says, the source of Yeroboam ben Nevat is greatness, which was Yosef. That's the Eitz Ephraim. That's why Yehuda was coming close to Yosef to receive this upper fear of God. That's what it means. Ani va'ata, me and you, and Ben Yishai will stroll together in Gan Eden, in the upper heavens. Sheyeh meir b'hem, that will shine in them. God said, Ani. The Ein Sof will, the Ein Sof, the infinite essence of God, will shine into Beharaba, to Yeroboam ben Nevat. That's what he said. Ani is Ani. like the Yud of God's name. No, that's pretty good. A big sinner like that. And God said, not only will I forgive your sins, I'll elevate you. You're going to be the highest. So, the highest, I'll take it. What's not exactly the highest? You'll be King David will be the highest, but you'll be number 2. No, what could be better than that? Omer lo mi barosh. Who's going to be first? Kihu ratza kamosha yachshav. Yeravam ben Nevat wanted it to be like it is now in our Torah portion, that Yosef is above, and that the spiritual is above the physical. The main thing of Yeravam was he was tremendously spiritual. The main thing of King David was that he had humility. Should be Yotam and Madrigat Yosef, because he was the level of Yosef, Yeravam ben Nevat, so he was above the level of Yehuda. Lochim, therefore, he wanted to be the head. The Gabi David, he wanted to be over David. Oh, Kodesh Baruch Hu, Omar, but God said to him, Shalati Lavo, then in the future, Yitale Yehuda, Yehuda is going to be higher. We're talking about what's going to be in the future, in the days of Mashiach. King David is going to be first. Therefore, Ben Yishai is going to be higher. Omer lo, he said, Ihachi lo ba'ina. If so, I don't want it. Yeravam ben Nevat was willing to suffer all of his sins, to do the worst possible punishments. He made all the Jewish people sin. His name is mentioned in the Mishnah, in Parki Avot. Also, it says over in the Mishnah in Sanhedrin. This is what we're talking about now. It says that he was one of the kings that went bad, one of the 3 kings that went bad. It says things that he hasn't got a place in the world to come. If so, lo ba'ina, I don't want to. Shelo hayabo b'chinas bitol b'shiflos. He didn't have this surrender. Yeravam, he had everything. The greatness. One thing he was lacking was humility. That's what the rabbis say. Gasut haruach. It says that the egotism of Yeravam, Toridato, it drove him out of heaven. And says something like this was also explained in another place by the spies. Remember the story? As soon as the Jews left Egypt, so God said to Moses, okay, take them into the land of Israel. And the people said, we want a little bit of an idea what's going to be in Israel. Let's send scouts. So they sent scouts into survey, and the scouts came back and they said, we can't take the land of Israel. It's too troublesome over there. The giants are too big. It's too much troubles. We'll stay in the desert. In the desert, we're high. We're above, we're close to God. Right? In the desert, the Jewish people got out of Egypt. They were receiving bread from God directly from heaven, manna, and water from God, and protection from God. And they were with God all the time. They had no worries, no enemies, no enemy. They were high. And they came into the land of Israel. They were going to have to dig and fight and work. It was going to be difficult. They're going to have to be low, and they didn't want to go low. That's the Meraglim, that's the spy, that's the scouts. The scouts said, we want to be high, just like Yeravam ben Nevat said. They didn't have the ability to humble themselves, to come down and be realistic in the world. The Gabi Bechinas Eretz, and they wanted to stay in what's called the upper Israel, the upper land of Israel, spiritual, be in the desert. They had the Torah, they could learn Torah day and night in the desert. Shedimu ba'atzim, they thought to themselves, she'ein tzorech lazeh, that you don't have to come down to the earth. You don't have to be in the land of Israel. Because they were from the land of Duchras. There's the masculine part, the spiritual part, the heavens. Heavens, that's masculine. That's why God is always referred to in masculine, because God is always giving. But the fact of the matter is, we are called God's bride. The world is feminine. We're the receiver. So the spiritual is higher than the physical, right? Says, yeah, maybe that's how it is now. But in the future, it's not going to be that way. Why? Because the truth will be revealed. The truth is that the physical, there's just simple existence is the basis and higher than everything else. And it's the source of everything. Although Yosef was, and Yehuda, they joined together in the future. In the ultimate Yehuda, and they'll be one. Okay, so we learned that's the first essay in this week's Torah portion in Torah Or. Now let's begin the second one. This is also pretty interesting. Vayilkat Yosef et kol hakesef, that Yosef gathered together all the money hanimsa be'eretz Mitzrayim that was in Egypt. Vayavoz Yosef hakesef, and he took all the money to the house of Paro. What happened? What's the story over here? There was a big famine in the world. No one dreamed there was going to be a famine. It was a time of plenty. Pharaoh had a terrible dream. Yosef was taken out of prison in order to interpret the dream. And he said, Pharaoh, listen, now things are good. It's not going to continue this way. No one, you won't believe, no one could dream what's going to happen. Now everything is good and there's fertility and there's food everywhere. This is going to last for only a few years. Now it's take all of the food that you got, everything that's a surplus, everything, and store it up. Do whatever you can to preserve it. Because in a certain amount of time, there's going to be a world famine. No one is going to have anything. And Pharaoh said, okay, you convinced me, I'm going to do it. And he did it. And sure enough, there was a famine. And the first year of famine, everybody sold whatever, everything they had. And the second year, they had to sell themselves. And Yosef, all the money in the world, Yosef had all the money in the world. People didn't need money for. What do they need money? They didn't money. What could they buy with? They needed bread. They needed food. So they gave food. They gave money, and Yosef provided for everything. Yosef was the king. So it says all the money that he had, he took all this money and he brought it to the house of Paro. Not only was the richest person in the world, he was the only person that had anything in the world. Him and Paro. Everyone else was slaves. What happened to this money? The rabbis say, Yosef, that Yosef hid 3 hidden treasures. Achas, one of them was revealed to Korach. Korach, he made a war against Moses in the desert, right? In the desert, after they left Egypt. So that was like, what was it, 200 years later. Korach revealed this. Korach became fantastically rich. Achad, one of them was revealed to Antoninus. One of them was revealed to Antoninus, who Antoninus is in the middle of the second temple. And one of them is hidden for the tzaddikim in the future. So what do the tzaddikim need money for? What's going on? And mainly we can understand that the riches that Yosef hid. But what is everybody? What do you mean? The tzaddikim are going to need money. What for? We'll see. Let's understand this. What do the tzaddikim need this money for? 1/3 of the money in the world. What do they need? So obviously this is more than meets the eye. To understand this, it says or zerul tzaddik. It says or in Psalms, or there is light which is planted for the tzaddik, for the righteous Jews. It's known the hainu bechinas, or this is the what type of light is this that's hidden for the tzaddikim? That's hidden. This is the or kadma. This is the first light. When God created the world, He said, "Let there be light." It says this light was concealed. He saw that the light was good. What does it mean? It was good. It was good to conceal. The Hava Nahir, that it shine miseifa alma ad seifa, from one end of the world to the other. The gun is Kodesh Baruch Hu l'tzaddikai, and God hid it for the tzaddikim. Okay, what is light? Light shines something up. It makes something revealed to someone. In the beginning of the world, when God created the world, there was light and darkness. Who was this someone that God was revealing it to? God only created people in the 6th day of creation. In the 1st day of creation, He created light. So it says God saw the light and it was good. What was it good? It was good to hide it for the tzaddikim in the future. In the future. If Adam would not have sinned with the tree, he would have gotten it. What is this light? What do you see with this light? You see reality. You see everything that's happening, everything that did happen, everything that would happen. There are certain tzaddikim that have little. That's why there's prophets. The prophets in Israel, that they could tell what's going to happen in the future. Prophets, things were revealed to them in the future. Right? They could see. Even Bilam, saw a little bit of this. Bilam, right? I mean, he wasn't a prophet in the sense that he could tell people what to do, but he was a prophet in the sense that he saw what was going to be, right? And nevertheless, God hid this light for the tzaddikim. Everyone's going to see. But Inyan, what does it mean that he hid this light for the tzaddikim? We're going to get back to the money in a minute. What does it mean? God hid this light for this awareness of all being. What does it mean? Not only that, what do you care about what happens, some bird in the middle of Africa? What do you care what everything happens? God knows everything. But for some reason, these are things that are important to God. There's one big plan. Everything in the world, nothing is accidental. By us, it can't see anything more, a statement more ridiculous than that. I mean, you know how many things are going on in like the Belgian, it's not Belgian anymore, in the Congo or something, every little bug, every little scorpion or whatever it is, snake, that he eats this frog or something like that. That's important to God. What could that possibly? Not only that, all these things are made of molecules, right? The snakes and the frogs and all these stuff, they're made of all these little molecules, and all this is important to God. That's just in this world. There's all the upper worlds, the spiritual worlds, and even the physical worlds. There's all these stars and galaxies and nebulae or whatever they're called, right? And it's all important to God. It says we'll see the light. Why this is important? What is the importance of all that? We'll have a whole new attitude of reality. This light is hidden. But we can understand the Hine, Ba'avodas Hashem, serving God. We find that there's two levels of loving God, appreciating God. What are the two levels of appreciating God? One of them is a love which comes from understanding. Somebody here, no. Love which comes from understanding. There comes from this Hispalos Bechuka Vislavos Elov. This is what we're supposed to do when we pray every day. When we pray every day, I'll answer the question. I'll finish the class in another 3 minutes. I'll answer the question. When we pray every day, we're supposed to be thinking about God. We think about God, how great God is. We see the Psalms of King David, that all the rivers are praising God, and the trees are praising God, and the angels are praising God. We think about this. We think, really, there's angels, the trees are praising God. What does that mean? God is creating. We start thinking about it. Hey, maybe I should praise God. This is really something. And God is creating me. He's creating me for a purpose. He's giving me life. He's giving me eyes. You think about it, and it gives you an inspiration to love God. This type of love is called Halada Chadasha. It's brand new. It's created brand new by means of understanding. Then there's another type of love. And this is love, which is inherent only in the Jewish people. And this is a concealed love. This is the natural love of every Jew, which is found in the godly soul of every Jew. This, by the way, is one of the reasons why for anti-Semitism. Every Jew has a natural, infinite love of God in his soul. And to the degree that's called the second soul, it's not really a normal soul like everybody else. So because of this soul, Jews are sort of like, men from outer space. They have a whole different sort of sense of what is reality, that God is not just a religious figure, take it or leave it, that God is absolute truth, absolute good, precious reality. Every Jew feels this, but it's hidden. It's hidden inside, but it's there. Not like the first love that's not there at all. Naturally, you love money or you love yourself, whatever you love. And then you have to start thinking about, no, I'll think about it. God, look at all the things that God does for me. God is to me. God, that's called the lower love of God. That's called love which is born by means of thinking. The upper level of God is not, it's also by means of thinking, but it's revealed. And this is what we're going to get to, God willing, tomorrow. Now we're going to do the Yom Yom. And first I'll answer this question. 1 minute.